the Living Well Show. My name is Dr. Perin. Today we are going to be talking about radical behaviorism or American behaviorism. So please stick around. You might learn how to change a behavior in 90 days.
Ooh, interesting.
Mhm.
That's great. Well, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Living Well Show with Dr. Perin and myself. I am Pablo Madrigal. I am his trusted producer.
The
And
show would not exist
sidekick.
without you, man. I cannot stress that enough. The show would not exist without our producer.
Well, let me pat my own back here real quick. Excellent. We are streaming live on X and on YouTube, broadcasting and streaming live. We do this every Monday at roughly around the same time. So yes, and this show is definitely made with the participation of our audience. So any of those of you who are listening out there, please give us a shout in the comments. Get throw your questions in there as you listen and as they come up, or leave them in the comments in the shows that you've listened to prior. These
We read them.
go.
We listen. We will read your
That's
questions live if they're relevant.
That's right. That's right. But this show is brought to you by the Hopewell Institute. Dr. Perin, tell us about the Hopewell Institute.
Oh, yeah. So we finally have a hosting platform. We decided to go with Skool, Skool. Please don't hate us for the spelling. We didn't choose it. It's actually a terrific hosting platform.
You would say it's a cool.
Too cool for school. Kool.
Oh, God, terrible.
Yeah, I love it. So if you want to see it, it's really early. We're building it out from the ground up. Go to join.thehopewellinstitute.com. You'll get to see the actual loading page, the landing page. You're going to see the join feature. It's completely free, at least now. So join while you can. Get in there. These episodes are being posted as they're edited. We are also trying to learn how to sell courses. That's not to persuade you to spend any money. It's completely optional. We are genuinely just learning how to sell info products. It is a skill that we're learning. So give us a lot of grace as we build it out. Hopefully we'll have more programming there ASAP. Go to the link. We're going to keep it up for this whole episode, or at least as long as possible. Join.thehopewellinstitute.com. We're really proud of what's shaping up.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Well, we had a really interesting and kind of different from other episodes last week. We got a lot of really great feedback on that one. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, we need to be doing more React videos. Yeah. That was the unequivocal feedback. More React videos.
Yeah, I wonder what is it about it? I mean, people just want to hear what other people think about what's out there in the media.
Well, not to toot our own horn or anything, but we did a good React video. Like some of the things that we talked about, like erotic transference, were revealed later, almost after we commented it. Here is the clinical presentation, and it was just, the timing was perfect. So maybe we can't recreate such a perfect timing, but I think we can. Maybe we can fit it into a shorter segment. Maybe we can try to get like 15-minute segments or 20-minute segments. Who's that video game guy? Asmongold. He does.
Oh,
I think he does like a whole YouTube thing.
He likes to be mentioned, So we
does he
up a React video and an Asmongold video.
Well, I think he just has like a platform where you just go and you share videos, and he just clicks from there. But I want to make sure ours are at least maybe psychology or psychotherapy.
I don't know how it works. But anyway, we are back on our somewhat usual programming this time around with a little bit more of a conventional episode, what we've been doing before. Yeah. But definitely expect some different types of content here and there, right?
Oh yeah. It's a spontaneity and creativity test. It's a game. We're playing. We're learning new ways to bring entertaining, educational content to you. So if you have any ideas, please let us know. We are flexible.
Amazing. Well, let's get right into it. What are we talking about today? Well, it's on the screen, so spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. It's behaviorism. So I am hoping to talk about behaviorism. I am actually very enthusiastic about the science of behaviorism. And I do separate it from psychodynamics or the other didactic series that we're having at the Hopewell Institute, sociometry, the scientific measurement of social relationships. Behaviorism is just that: changing, shaping, evaluating, and analyzing behavior, like actual physical actions. And the thing is that it's very potent intervention. A lot of times when you look at, let's talk about like sports coaches, like your high school football coach or little league baseball coaches, right? What they are doing is they are modeling, shaping, and reinforcing very specific behaviors that aid a particular developmental goal. So if you're trying to be like a really good little league player, maybe you're, putting up t-ball, the coach is going to be reinforcing you going up to the plate, swinging with good form, and running across all 4 bases. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was in Little League, I wanted to talk with my friends. I was maybe running in the other direction. I'd stop in the middle of the run and go out and like high five I was a kid, right? So what do? You intervene on the behavior that, you make sure that they don't do the inappropriate behavior, and you coach them on the correct behavior. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about sort of the key features of behaviorism, what behavioral interventions are, what behavioral interventions look like, and if we can get into it, how to actually create a plan, how to actually create a behavioral change plan. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I personally have a bit of a real life case study that we can probably explore, and I think it would be very helpful I'm sure for a lot of people that might be in the same similar situation. So let's talk about that at some point. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
We'll use it as an example. I like examples because that gives me concrete, specific behaviors to work with.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So, where do we start? How does one begin changing a behavior? Do you need a plan for that? Do you need to draft something? Do you need a calendar? Do you need a deadline? Do you set deadlines? Do you mark a start point and an ending point? What's the approach here?
All of those are really great ideas. I would actually posit a question. Would you rather the world shape your behavior, or would you like to have a vote? Would you like to kind of choose and influence the own trajectory of your own behaviors? It's rhetorical. I imagine you would choose the latter. I imagine you would want to have a vote in it. So if you actually went with a plan and set out and said, what are the actual behaviors that I am doing? What are the behaviors that I want to change? And what are the behaviors that I would like to be doing? Yeah, sit down, write them out. That's your starting point. And you can work backwards. You can start at, what are the actual behaviors that I want to be doing? Wake up at 5 a.m., go to the gym, brush my teeth, take a shower, and then go to work, right? Morning routines are very hard, and I'm a celebrated sleeper. So I would actually look at, what behaviors am I actually doing? Well, I'm sleeping a little bit later than that. So I would have to wake up a little bit earlier. Well, I'm tired and cranky when I woke up. So what do I need to what interventions will I have to put in to increase the likelihood of me doing the behavior that I want versus the behavior that I don't? Behaviorism really looks at the scientific study and application of these, and the application of behavioral interventions for the purpose of changing. They don't really care too much about the past. It is explicitly, what are your behaviors now? If you want to change your morning routine, what is your morning routine today? Great, let's write it out on paper. I wake up at 8 a.m. Okay, what is your goal? I'd like to wake up at 5 a.m. Great. What will it take for you to wake up at 5 a.m.? The first one is the goal. The second one is that we got to reinforce this goal, right? How do we reinforce it? I like treats and prizes. Treats and prizes can be very reinforcing. When you're a grown-ass man and you can buy your own treats and prizes.
I was going to say, I don't need, I can treat myself really easily. Mm-hmm. I can skip right to the end.
So what I'm getting at is that you do have to manufacture this. You do have to build it. when you're a child and maybe a parent is maybe creating a behavioral intervention, token economies are really popular, right? You do your chores, you get a token. At the end of the week, you can exchange a certain amount of tokens for treats or prizes. It teaches children to hopefully learn pro-social behaviors. Do your homework, brush your teeth, don't hit. When you're a parent, you can reinforce that. You don't get your candy bar, or you did your homework, here's a candy bar. When you're an adult and you have a drawer full of candy bars, it's Halloween season, there's nobody to do that. You have to do it yourself. You have to have that internal locus of control. You have to have that self-accountability. It becomes harder. So a lot of people will employ a coach. I actually don't want to use the word coach. I'm going to say maybe like an expert worker, right? So like if you're learning football, who do you go to? You go to someone who knows more than football than you. If you're trying to develop a skill, you go to someone who has more skill than you. They can help you develop a behavioral plan. But if you're doing it yourself, you need to write it out. You need to actually have a concrete plan, and you need to have a system of tracking these behaviors. It requires you. How many times did I set out to do the behavior this week? How many times did I actually do it? What steps do I need to cram in there to increase the likelihood of me behaving according to my goal again? I don't quite feel like I'm explaining this adequately, but if there's anything you're taking away from this, is that yes, it takes a lot of work to do it yourself, to manufacture and develop your own behavioral change system.
Would you say that any behavior can be changed and modified?
I'm very reluctant to work in extremes. So I'd be cautious. Give me some time. I can think of some examples of when it wouldn't. But I do think that most behaviors can change. We are animals, and I hate to take away that agency. Like, we are animals. Think about how easy it is to train a dog. Sit, lay down, roll over, good job, pet, treat. Humans aren't really much different. We learn to line up in school. We learn how to say please and thank you. We follow road rules, right? It's so funny because these are not universal. If you try to drive like an American in Australia or the United Kingdom, you are going to drive on the wrong side of the road, or you're going to get really confused. A lot of this is the behavioral term is conditioned in us, so that we follow certain scripts and routines. A lot of this can be unconscious because it has been trained. It has been repeated so many times that when our alarm wakes up, or when our alarm goes off, we wake up, we get dressed, we take a shower, we go to work. A lot of this is deliberately shaped and trained since elementary school. A lot of the systems of elementary school was deliberately developed on purpose during the Industrial Revolution to make factory workers. So think about what school is like, K through 12. You're sitting in a desk, staring at all of the desks facing in the same direction, looking at one leader who is instructing everybody onto a course of action. That was deliberate. I believe it was Daniel Carnegie who tried to make it, we need more factory workers. We don't need more free thinkers. We need more factory workers. Let's shape the American education system to create factory workers. Well, we stopped being factory workers a long time ago, but the modern American education system has maintained the everyone sit in unison and stare at the wall. So we've maintained a lot of these conditioned behaviors, and our actual behavior is not fitting our work demands or our life demands. And so very often we can be unhappy.
Do you think that behaviors can be quickly changed or dictated by, or the process of changing a behavior would be accelerated? I think that's the word that I'm looking for. Accelerated by being exposed to different cultural circumstances or a different environment. And I have a reason why I'm asking that, but give me your answer first.
I would use the word incentives. You want to be very careful
Okay.
about what incentives you give. And on a cultural level, they do offer certain incentives. I think, very cultural things in the United States is you get a driver's license around 15 and a half, 16 years old. Um, that might be different in other countries, right? But it's almost expected that when you're 15 and a half, you get a learner's permit and you go out and you do all of these things. And by 16, you're driving. That is kind of a culturally accepted thing in the United States, and it is reinforced at a cultural level by driver's ed being offered at certain ages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Um, I've noticed this. I noticed something really interesting when I was traveling through Japan earlier in the year. That it was almost like a light switch that people like right away shed some behaviors that would have engaged here in the US, but once they were there and they were like, oh wait, they don't do this here, or they do it differently.
Mhm,
People were very quick to adopt those new behaviors. Not that they became, a new norm for them
mhm.
in the long run, but I thought it was really, and a lot of the things that would just be very second nature to us here in the US, people were very quick to drop or to modify while they were on their visit in Japan.
Mm.
So I was wondering, well, I wonder if these people stayed here to live, I wonder if they would revert back to the way that they used to be once it becomes their natural environment, or they would just completely adopt these things right away.
So we can get really into the weeds on things like extinction, which is when a behavior starts going down, or even an extinction burst where it comes back up again. We can talk about generalizing. We talk about all these fun terms. But what I think is most relevant, and I'm really glad you bring Japan up, is that Japan as a culture does use behaviorism to shape cultural moral values. One of the first ones that comes to mind is they don't have custodial services in their schools. All of the children at certain times a day get a rag and they all clean the entire school from top to bottom. And it's to actually teach a moral lesson, a civics lesson, that you take care of the things that are around you. Most Japanese elementary schools and middle schools also have kind of a food garden, like a school food garden that the students take care of. And the vegetables that are grown in that garden are repurposed in the cafeteria and fed to the students. And again, that is to teach this civics lesson, this cultural morality that you work together to raise crops, and then you feed the community, and you blah 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 blah. These are things that are kind of absent in the American cultural zone. So like I had a custodian in my elementary school. We went home at the end of the day. Uh, I'm not as conscientious about cleaning something up before I leave a room, right? The way someone who's Japanese might. And that whole conscientiousness applies to other areas of life. If they're getting onto a subway, they're going to go, I don't want to be rude and inconsiderate to my neighbor. I'm going to try to be as inoffensive as possible. These are all carried over lessons from behavioral interventions applied at a very early age, where moral development follows behavioral expectations. So I think Japan's a really great example of that on a
Mhm.
cultural level. I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's interesting. See what happens when you go to a different culture and then you immediately change your behavior, to kind of
Oh,
like adapt.
yeah,
But I
they'll
mean,
shame you too. Shame
yeah.
is a very effective social emotion, and I'm going to call it a social emotion because it serves social cohesion. If you didn't feel guilty or ashamed, you might pick your nose in public and eat while walking, and a Japanese person will go, "Oh, that's so rude," and we won't care.
Yeah, that's right. So okay, somebody wants to change a behavior.
Mhm.
Uh, what stages someone can expect? Can somebody expect from that process?
Well, I'm really glad that you mentioned stages, because we can even look at stages of change in terms of where you are in terms of your motivation. Because if you look
Mm,
at sort of this pre-contemplation stage, I don't have a problem. I don't need to change anything. My behavior's fine. To the contemplation phase, yeah, smoking is probably unhealthy, but I'm not ready to quit yet. But I should probably quit sometime. there's a point where you're actually sitting down and you're ready to quit. That starts the planning stage where you're actually thinking about what it would take to change a behavior. Now, I painted quitting smoking. That is one of the hardest things to do. It's about as hard as starting flossing. But you have to sit down and go, when do I smoke? Okay, well, I have a cigarette first thing in the morning, or I do on my drive to work. Maybe I have a cigarette before bed. Then you go, okay, what will I have to do instead? Maybe a replacement behavior. Maybe I'm just gonna white knuckle it. Maybe I'm just gonna make it through the cravings. I'll write some 22-minute activities on a card in my pocket, and when I get a craving, I'll pull it out and I'll distract myself for 22 minutes so while the craving kind of comes and goes. Right? They come up with a plan. The next step is the actual action stage where you're executing. The thing is that the action stage is hard because we are compelled to return to our old behaviors. We are compelled to return to homeostasis. We want to do the old behavior. Until we develop a repertoire, it will take effort to change the course or to replace it with a healthier or more pro-social behavior. And you have to do that repeatedly for weeks, if not months, before that becomes less effortful. And the thing is that we can look at it in brain scans. We can see how, if you're doing a task for the first time, how much of the front of your brain lights up, because that's your executive functioning. It requires deliberate, choiceful behavior. And that after you've done something for a couple of months, it lights up a little bit more in areas of the brain which are more associated with routine, or what we kind of call chunking, where we don't have to think about our behaviors as much. It's less deliberate and it's more routine. So when we talk about behavior change, and this can take anywhere between 3 weeks to 3 months, that just becomes the newer behavior. It becomes easier to do it that way. There's always the risk for relapse, but or withdrawal, but that becomes a maintenance phase.
So
The maintenance phase is easier than action.
So you would say that the stages of changing the behavior are more on the side of stages of motivation to change that behavior.
Yes.
And then the behavior will change according, or the speed of it will be related according to the level of motivation that we have.
Yes, specifically between planning, action, and maintenance. Now, we can relapse at any time if we're talking about actual like substance use, right? Relapse can be I'm now going back to my old behavior and I'm starting over from scratch. And then you're back to the contemplation stage, planning, action, right? And you can get stuck in that loop as much as possible. But when you are actually in the planning to action stage, you are sitting down, you have a drawing board. You are saying, these are my goals, these are the behaviors that I'm trying. This worked. When I did it this day, it worked. When I did it this day, it didn't work. What were different between these two conditions? What were the contexts? What was framing the differences in success? And then what's one more thing I can add to it to make me more successful next time, and then more successful next time, and so on and so on and so forth, until the behavior changes.
Is there a way to track your progress?
Yeah, I mean, I'm old school. I track progress with
yeah,
pen and paper, right? But I use a model. It's called SMART goals. It's very structured. The SMART stands for something specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time oriented. I use that model because it increases the likelihood of success. So, being able to say, I want to lose 20 pounds, that's actually not a goal. That's a wish. That's a desire. That's a fantasy. I sure would love 20 pounds to magically disappear from my body. I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week. I'm going to home cook, a meal 2 days a week, chicken and rice or fish and rice. And then 1 day a week, on Sunday, I'm going to have a cheat meal. That's a plan. That's specific. It's measurable. Let's say you're going to do it for 3 months. 3 months is 12 weeks is a good college try. So let's say that for 3 months, I'm going to commit to going to the gym 3 days a week. And for at least 4 days of the week, I'm going to cook 2 meals a day at home with rice and chicken. You can measure that. You can sit down and
You make it
go,
sound easy, man.
how many days per week did I do it?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be perfect. Now, well, I meet tons of people where they're dedicated. If they set a goal, they're going to execute, right? But very often there's going to be gaps. There are going to be flaws. Oh man, that one day I just ate McDonald's 3 times in a row because I was traveling. Or, oh yeah, that one weekend I broke up with my girlfriend and I binged on alcohol and ice cream for like 4 days straight, right?
Yeah.
You're able to then look at your own behaviors and then you can evaluate it. Unless you're actually putting it on paper and looking at these outcome measures and tracking them, you aren't going to see what you're doing well. It's going to be kind of vague, or you're going to think that you're crushing it, and then you're going to weigh yourself in 6 months and your scale isn't going to change.
So actually, I think a perfect example, if I can insert myself here for a little bit, a couple of years ago, I'm sure you remember that I got really serious about working out, and because after a few months of like hard work, and for me, work is going out and drinking and eating and blah blah blah, and just being terrible to myself.
Your job is a frat boy fantasy.
Yeah, it really is. But after that, I found this 90-day transformation program.
Oh yeah, was this at the boxing, or that was the personal trainer?
That was a personal.
I remember that.
That was a personal trainer, and it's a 90-day transformation program that sounded a little too good to be true because it was free. I'm not going to get into specifics of that, but it actually didn't turn out to be good and true. But
that's testimonial. I think they were new, weren't they? Yeah. They hired you just so that you'd write a good review, I think.
Something along those lines, yeah. But I mean, I will testify that it did take a whole lot of motivation. At some point, I looked myself in the mirror and I go, wow, holy shit, I got to do something about this. Pick up the phone. Okay, let's do this program. Okay. 90 days. And they set it was very clear goals from the beginning, weekly tracking meals. Of course, you have to be committed to the change, right? You have to be committed.
I was going to say, they told you they'd fire you if you had a cheat meal, didn't they?
Well, they told me they would fire me from the program if I didn't show commitment. I mean, they're not going to do it for a cheat meal, but if you show lack of commitment, if you start missing sessions, if you are not, they were very adamant about uploading pictures and tracking of every meal every day.
But behaviorally, that's an external accountability. It's like you can't just quit one day and say, I'm going to have a cheeseburger, I'm not going to go to the gym. They will see it and they will say, how motivated are you? Do you want to continue? And you're going to go, no, I'm going to continue.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I mean, I successfully completed the program. I actually met, quite happy to met right, just exactly what I wanted for my fitness goals. But the important thing from that to apply to this is that I keep going to that gym and I keep doing that routine, and that became a behavior, and it just became okay, this is what I do 3-4 times a week, going to this gym, sometimes waking up early in the morning. It's something that I never thought I would even be able to do, right? I mean, me, I'm a night owl. I worked bars for many years. I started waking up at the time that sometimes I would even be coming back from work. Something that I would never thought I would do, but I think I can say I successfully changed or added that behavior, which is that fitness routine. So in the 90 days.
But I want to specifically highlight the mechanisms of change here, because I can use that as an example. The 3 primary principles are modeling, shaping, and reinforcing. So you showed up, you didn't know how to do these exercises, I presume. Well, you probably saw them, you've heard about them, but nobody ever said, hey, this is your form, let me actually fix your form on this. No, do it again, do that at a lighter rate, do that at a lighter weight this way. Okay, now you got it. Add weight to that. Okay, now you got it. Add weight to that, right? They're modeling. They are showing you how to do it. And then they are giving you in vivo immediate feedback. Now that immediacy is key. And I'm going to pick on dogs, for example, because humans, we can do delayed reinforcement. Dogs can't, right? So you have dogs. If Jin did a good job and you said, good job, Jin, and then you gave her a treat 4 hours later, how likely is she going to go, oh, this is for that good job I did earlier. I better
Right,
do that
right.
again. Right? No, she's going to think, what did I do immediately before I was rewarded? That's what he wants me to do more of. So a lot of the reinforcement does have to be immediate. One of the things that I love about gym environments is the enthusiasm. Even if you see somebody at the same gym at the same time, week after week after week, and they have earbuds, there's a point where you lock eyes and you do like the what's up nod, or you fist bump as you're passing by each other. That's a reinforcement. That reinforces our decision to go to the gym, and we're more likely to do it again because we're getting that what they call a positive reinforcement. Now, there are other types of reinforcement. There's a negative reinforcement. There's also punishment, which can be broke down into a positive and negative punishment, but we don't have to go into the weeds there. Modeling, shaping, and reinforcing. First, you do it for them, then you do it with them, and then you show them appreciation for doing it on their own. Hey, you did it, man, all by yourself. Bam, you hit all 8 reps. High five. Oh man, your form was perfect. I didn't have to adjust a single thing. High five. You get gassed up. You feel good. You are more likely to do it again. You're going to go, oh wow, I want to impress this guy. I'm gonna go one more rep next time, and then he's gonna be really excited, right? Now you are creating a motivational feedback loop that makes you more likely to go to the gym even though it's hard. How's this sitting with you?
Great. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. Yeah. So, okay. So, how? What does it mean? Because I've heard this before. When the behavior changes an additive, what is that? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. When you are looking at behavior change, a lot of times people try to frame it from an extinction angle. We want this behavior to stop. They're an alcoholic. We want them to quit drinking. Okay, don't drink anymore. That's the solution. Good luck. Not so easy. It's better to have a goal that is positive and additive than subtractive. The goal isn't to subtract drinking, it's to add more pro-social behaviors. So if you used to get blackout drunk on Friday the moment you get home from work, but your goal is to not drink on Friday nights anymore, your goal wouldn't be, I want to get through my Friday without drinking, because that's a non-goal. It's, I want to go out and do maybe a biking event, or I'm going to develop a new weekly Friday hobby that gets me out of the house and doesn't include drinking. And then you can measure that. Did I leave my house on Friday? Did I go to the the alternative location? Did I do the alternate behavior? Yes. Boom, bam. No, I stayed at home and I drank. All right, I did not add the new behavior. So when people say that behavior change is additive, it means you are doing something new. You are not taking away.
I see.
I actually have a really great example of this. This is an example from Stephen Hayes. He did this in a lecture at a training I did once, and I'll never forget it, because he said, I'm going to tell you 3 letters. No, I'm going to tell you 3 numbers, and if you can remember them at the end of this, I'm going to give you $1 million. He says, are you ready? The numbers are 1, 2, 3. And we all laughed, because who's going to forget 1, 2, 3? He laughed. He says, I don't actually have $1 million to give any of you, but I want to prove a point. Let's stick with it. And then he went back into his lecture. And about 10 minutes later, he stopped and he said, hold on a second. What are those 3 numbers? Do you remember them? Of course you remember them. The whole room went 1, 2, 3, and he laughed. At the end of the lecture, he did it. He did it a few other times, and even at the end of the lecture, he said, "Does everybody remember the sequence of letters?" And we all laughed, and we said 1, 2, 3. He was making a point that even learning is additive. People don't forget. You learn new things. So if he were to say there's a new sequence and it's A, B, C, I can learn that. But if he says, "Do you remember what the other one is?" Yeah, the other one used to be numbers. It used to be 1, 2. We didn't forget it. We added new information.
Okay, I see. I get
That's
it.
all. That's also like with history, right? Because people say, "Oh, I want my trauma to go away." Well, you're gonna always remember that. You're like, history happened. You can't change history, but you can change your relationship with history. You can change your behaviors as you are reminded of history. That becomes the additive change. It's not that you can take away a memory, you add a behavior. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah. So it's more of a reframing of what we're doing, right? When you're changing, when you're trying to change a behavior, um, like let's say a negative to a positive, you're not you're changing the framing from, oh, we're removing this and then switching it for that. We are actually transforming it and adding the positive angle
Mhm.
to the behavior.
Making it more effective or more likely.
Right.
Because if you, as I said earlier, I want to lose 20 pounds. That's not a goal. That's a wish. That's a fantasy. That's a desire. I could want that for the rest of my life. Yep. Still want to lose, still want to lose 20 pounds. It's not a goal. I want to go to the gym 3 times a week, every day for 12 weeks in a row. Now it's a goal. Now it's something that I can measure and I can say I didn't do it. I did not accomplish the objectives that I objectively wrote out.
So how can we identify behavior that we want to add instead of removing or quitting?
That's a good question. It's kind of a horseshoes and hand grenade situation. Very often people will explain where their pain is, and so like the weight example. People make fun of me. People insult me for my weight, or I feel bad because I eat fast food all the time. I'm actually lethargic and grumpy occasionally, right? They can say, "I don't want to do that anymore." Great. That's the goal. Let's turn that into a positive. What do you want to do instead? Well, maybe instead of going through the McDonald's drive through, I'm going to go to, gosh, I can't think of a healthy restaurant off the top of my head. I'm just going to make a sandwich
Sweet
at home.
green. Yeah.
Sure. Sweet green, right? I'm going to get a salad or a vegetable. I presume that's maybe a vegetarian or spot like that. So like, sure, go get a healthier alternative. I feel good after Mediterranean food. I feel good after fish. It's not the most exciting meal in the world, but I don't feel bad. So that would be the additive. I'm going to eat fish. I'm going to eat chicken and rice. I'm going to go and get a salad, and then my energy levels are going to be better. I'm going to feel less, gross, or I'll be able to bend over and not feel the pinch of the skin on my belly, right? Oh, I lost my train of thought. Where are we going with this?
We were talking about identifying behaviors to
Oh,
add and
identifying them, right.
yeah.
It's very often where we're in pain, they're going to be able to identify something that can be worked with. If they say, I just want to lose weight, I feel really bad, I just want to lose weight, I just want to lose weight. Bam, that's what we reframe. That is what we repackage. If we were going to model that off of that SMART goal example, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time oriented, we might try to let's turn that into a SMART goal. Or how do we turn that into something that is additive? And
Wait,
that's kind of the questions
say that again for the people who might not know what that SMART goal is.
What the SMART goal is: specific,
Yeah.
measurable, achievable, realistic, and time oriented. That's just for tracking. That is just a great way to track your behavior and track your progress towards a goal if you are doing outcome measures and self-measurement. That's just a toolbox. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah. Just, I don't know how many in our audience have heard of that term or
Well,
aware of it.
I even feel kind of silly saying it because I mean, it's like anything. You get a good term that's easy to remember. What's the word? Anagram? That's not. Yeah, anagram.
No,
Or no, I
it's
always
a mnemonic
a
device.
mnemonic device. There's a specific one, but I blank on it. My thesaurus function isn't working right now. But I do find a lot of them are cheesy, and there are some ones that you hear over and over and over again that you
Yeah.
just want to roll your eyes. Uh, George E.P. Box is a famous statistician, and he has one of my favorite quotes. It's all models are wrong, some models are useful. Uh, I find the SMART goal model a useful one because
Mhm.
it's very easy to remember, and again, it increases the effectiveness of a goal. Can you accomplish a goal if you say I want to lose 20 pounds and that's your only goal? Yeah, I've done it before, but you're going to be more effective if you turn it into something that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time oriented, time measurable.
Mhm. Okay, excellent. So, what's happening in the brain when we're trying to add these behaviors?
Ooh, that is a good question. We can break this down chemically. I think one of the fun chemical that is popular right now is dopamine. Dopamine is a really
Oh
good
yeah.
reward chemical. I mean, just scrolling. Oh, that tickles the brain in in a weird way. It's so funny because you can buy like a wooden block with a ball in the middle and you can just roll the ball upwards because that's the thumb gesture that makes us happy on social media. And we're gonna smile. It's gonna release just that little happy chemical in your brain. It's like, ooh, just a little dose of dopamine. Uh, you go to Las Vegas and you play slot machines. Every time you pull it, you're going to get a dopamine reward from anticipation. And then you're going to get another reward whether or not you win or whether or not you lose. Um, Now, I can break this down into something a little bit more technical. What we would call a variable ratio, meaning a certain amount of times ratio, but variable, meaning unpredictable. You don't know when you're going to pull that lever and it's going to be a jackpot. It could be one time, it could be 10 times. You don't know which. That is a very potent reinforcement. You are going to get the optimal reward chemicals in your brain. Like it's actually quite it's actually quite bad. It creates addiction. Um I When you are trying to break a habit and you're trying to create a new reward pathway, very often the new behavior is not going to release the same reward chemical. And therefore, changing that behavior is going to be a lot harder. So if you're used to gambling every day and you're switching to going for a walk in the woods, is going on a walk in the woods good for your mental health? Yeah, it's terrific. Is it going to feel as good as that reward system in your brain as gambling? No, no, not even close. It's going to take a lot of repetition over time to break the power that behavior has on you.
Fun. Yeah. So, okay. Does that do it for the chemistry of what's going on? I mean, I'm sure there's a whole lot
I
going
could
on, but
go into a
I don't know
lot more
if you wanted
detail.
to touch more on that, or we can.
Well, I don't know how much into how much detail I want to go into it, but
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
that reward structure alone, it does not take much. The other one is punishment, but I don't want to get into punishment. I want to focus specifically on reinforcement. Like
Well, yeah. I was just gonna ask you what is the difference there between reinforcement and punishment.
Well, I could go into the difference between reinforcement and
Yeah,
punishment.
yeah.
Uh, the driest explanation is that if you want to increase a behavior, you reinforce it. If you want to decrease a behavior, you punish it. Now, uh, there is a lot of nuance between a punishment and what we might call a negative reinforcement. So a negative reinforcement is taking away an unpleasant stimuli. So like if you're in the doghouse because you didn't do something and your wife was mad at you and she just gave you the silent treatment until you cleaned the house, and then once you clean the house, it's oh Pablo, thank you, or you cook dinner, it's hey, there's my guy, right? That is the reinforcement. Like or you're taking away the negative stimulus. A punishment is adding a negative stimulus. It's you did wrong, and now I'm going to cause something that makes you uncomfortable. Spanking, yelling, shouting, aggression. These are things that the goal is to decrease a behavior. Now, the thing is that it decreases behavior very quickly. And therefore, people go, oh, let's use punishment as a tool. The thing is that the short-term effectiveness of punishment tends to have very long-term unintended consequences. Very often, hiding behavior, like we start lying, we start hiding, we start trying to get out of trouble. We also build resentment for the authority figures that have the power to punish us. If it's our parents, we start resenting and lying to our parents, and then they don't love it. And they go, why do my children resent and hate us? Well, it's because you punish them. That makes sense. So I highly recommend reinforcement over punishment. Reward good behavior, don't punish bad behavior.
Right.
Address bad behavior. But there are different strategies for negative reinforcement. I'm trying to think of an example. So like if your kid is used to playing on their iPad instead of doing their homework, and you're instituting a new rule, you have to institute the new rule to be you get your iPad after you do your work. And they're going to think that that's punishment because you're taking away the iPad. But that's the very subtle difference of a reward and a punishment, is you have to create the reward structure. Because you have done your homework, you have earned your iPad, not I'm taking your iPad away until you do your homework.
Well, actually, something I was gonna ask you is, I'm sure that oftentimes the line between reinforcement and punishment it's got to be thin and blurry, right? Or is it always like clear cut? No.
Nope. Reward good behavior. Don't punish bad behavior.
Okay.
These are very concrete. To reward, you are adding a positive stimulus. To reinforce, you are adding a positive stimulus. A negative reinforcement is you are removing a negative stimulus. A punishment is you are adding a negative stimulus.
Well, is that the premise more or less of gentle parenting?
Yes. Gentle parenting is no punishment. It's all rewarding. It's all positive behavior. It's all reframing, and it's all warmth. The thing is gentle parenting doesn't often have a lot of consequences. I think gentle parenting without at least a timeout structure is just ineffective parenting.
Well, I was raised by the old school Mexican,
the chancla,
the all Mexican school of raising children. I'll tell you what, there was nothing gentle about it, and we were crushing it. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say my oldest childhood friend, he's Puerto Rican, and I think he's 42 years old. But if his mother pulled out a sandal, he will shrink and he will be like, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." It is funny.
Yeah. Listen, no complaints here. We're doing well. I wonder how I would be doing if my parents had used gentle parenting. I'd probably, who knows?
Well, one of the difficulties with being overly warm is that you are not setting or managing expectations. That has implications for moral development, because even if it's something as simple as in this house we don't hit, and if you break the rule, this is the consequences of breaking the rule. Now, I'm a huge fan of timeout done in a particular way. I know some people are like, "Oh, timeout doesn't work with." If you do it like a psychologist, timeouts work like a magic bullet. But that, let's say they hit and they're 7 years old, they're going to go in timeout for 7 minutes because that's how old they are. And if their butt gets up from the chair or the step or wherever it is, that timer resets. Like, you have to have butt in chair for the totality of the timeout. And when it's over, you have to verbalize what it is that got you the timeout. I hit my sister, and the rule in this house is that we don't hit, especially family members. And I'm in this timeout because I hit my sister. Great, because you verbalize that, you are now out of your timeout. This is a very nuanced and specific way of establishing these parameters. This is the set and maintained expectation in the household. Now that there is a firmness, we can be warm, we can be gentle, we can be kind, so long as you are meeting the expectations of the household. We are respectful, we do our homework, we don't talk back to our parents, or whatever the house rules might be. But it actually puts a lot of the effort on the parent, because the kid, of course, is an animal. They're a little tyrant. They're running around the house, again, with that dopamine. They're following the dopamine. Ooh, I want to do this. Ooh, this feels nice. Ooh, I want to do this. It is a parent's responsibility to put time and effort modeling, shaping, and reinforcing behavior, because that child could grow up to be an adult tyrant who is following the dopamine. Ooh, I want to do this. Ooh, I want to hit this guy. Ooh, I want to touch this person.
Yeah. Met a couple, 2, 3 of those in my time.
2 or 3.
So when it comes to rewards, what are things that people usually do wrong, or mistakes that they might make when rewarding themselves, that would maybe not make the reinforce and reward approach efficient or effective?
And my initial response is intensity and frequency. Like, you need to be able to shock your system to some degree. If the reinforcement is not stimulating enough, it's gonna fail to motivate you to do it again. If you are not shaking it up and creating kind of a sort of a multiple exemplar system for reinforcement, I don't want to get too complicated. This is, if we get into advanced behaviorism, you get relational framing, which you can really get complicated. You can go beyond modeling, shaping, and reinforcing. You can model and shape, reinforcing very specific responses. Like, what would be a good example? You want to take a kid to multiple public environments. You want to take them to church, you want to take them to school, you want to take them to the grocery store, you want to take them to their grandparents' house, because each one has different rules, different expectations for behavior. And if you have these multiple exemplars, you get a more robust, broad sense of what pro-social, appropriate moral behavior is. But again, the parent has to do this. They have to go out and say, I'm going to not do what I'd like to do today, and I'm going to focus on modeling, shaping, and reinforcing very specific moral or pro-social behaviors in my child. Because when we're an adult, it really is up to us to reinforce it, and we can do what we want.
So, in answer to the question, you said overdoing it, over rewarding yourself.
I'd like to create some degree of variability. So if I were to reinforce myself every single day, let's say if I go to my goal is to go do some exercise every single day. And if I exercise, I'm going to get a cupcake. So every day I exercise and then I get a cupcake. That cupcake rewards the exercise. If I want to reinforce doing it 5 or 7 in a row because I made it through a week, I'm going to get maybe a birthday cake, right? But I'm not going to get a birthday cake every day. I'm going to go back to the cupcake because I want to reinforce on the day level. And then I make it to another week, I'm going to get a birthday cake. And then I do that again, cupcake every day until the end of the week, birthday cake. And if I've made it an entire month, maybe I'm going to get a wedding cake. I don't have this much of a sweet tooth. Please, I'm getting diabetes even imagining this scenario. But you create that variability and you increase the intensity. So small reward daily, middle reward weekly, large reward monthly. But then you still go back on that individual level. Small reward, small reward, small reward, medium reward, big reward. But you create kind of these different variable reward structures. They solve two purposes. One, you look forward to it. Well, if I don't go to the gym today, I'm not going to get my birthday cake Saturday. So I guess I'm going to go and take the gym or go to the gym. And if you're just exhausted, or let's say you ate your cake, the next day you're going to feel great. You're like, hey, I'm feeling awesome. I just had my reward. It'll be easy for me to go to the gym today. So it both pulls you and pushes you to the next objective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what is an advice you would want to give somebody that would be inclined to go after the reward and, do mental gymnastics to claim the reward without going through the effort of, whatever it is that the change that they would want to make?
Just a integrity check. Like this is sometimes a very tough look in the mirror, where we look in the mirror and we say, of course I didn't do it. I rewarded myself before the action. I need to do the action before I reward myself. Like I am sabotaging myself. I am getting in the way of my own goals because some other people won't do it. Like that has to be very personal. Unless you're a kid and your parents telling you so, but then it's probably not your goal. It's your parents' goal. They are impressing something on you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I would like to maybe propose a scenario or like a case, and then maybe we can talk. You can talk us through the steps of how you would, help this person modify their behavior towards the goal. Okay. So
Okay.
the scenario is, so you have a couple living together. One is very clean and orderly. The other person is not the clean and orderly person. I'm sure this happens like every day, everywhere in the entire world. Right?
Every marriage on
every marriage on the planet. Right. So, and then the orderly and clean person would like to the partner to have the same behavior, so that or to help out more in that regard.
In the odd couple, the messy one also wanted the fussy one to relax a little. So I think they each have the same claim to, I think you should change. Well, I think you should change.
Well, I think for this particular scenario, we can definitely let's just assume that the messy person is aware of that, there is like a change that needs to be made, a behavior that needs to be changed or added, or etc.
Mhm.
What can the partner, the clean partner that wants to have the messy partner again to the clean side, what can this partner do to help the messy partner adopt or add these new behaviors in a what is that word that I'm looking for, in a more natural way, instead of being like
punishing?
Well, yeah, exactly, and without being
We've all been
naggy,
on the receiving end of that conversation, whether we deserved it or not.
Yeah.
When we're being yelled at with that kind of intensity, we're not going, thank you so much. I really appreciate you bringing that to my attention. I cannot wait to improve my behavior for you.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're usually like grumpy and angry and being like, well, now I'm not going to do it.
Or at least a little bit on the defensive, right? Like, well, now I'm not going to do it because you asked me about it. So I mean, but there's definitely a way in which the partner can
the defensiveness
help.
Defensiveness, yes, but very often by the time the messier one is compelled to change, it is not a positive situation. And when we get into criticism, or worse, contempt, the character evaluation, you are you are sloppy. You are a sloppy boyfriend, or you are a sloppy wife, right? That is felt. Like we feel that from like the person who we need love from is just devaluing us. That is not felt as a motivation to do better. So it has to be acknowledged and established. I am going to try to change this behavior. My goal is to maybe change it in approximately 90 days, 3 months, 12 weeks. I need some grace because behavior change is difficult. Sometimes behavior change is like steering a battleship. It takes a very long time. It takes a whole lot of effort. And honestly, sometimes we mess up. So if it's, I'm going to clean the kitchen every night before going to bed, and then one night you don't do it, if your partner tears you a new one, you are not more likely to do it the next day. You're actually less likely to do it the next day. What that punishment is reinforcing is the resentment and the hiding behavior, right? So the messy one might try to cut corners, or they might just try to like throw everything into a pile, or put like a sheet over it and hope she doesn't notice.
Yeah.
Or he's just gonna be angry.
So walk me through it then. What are the steps, if you were to put it on a few actionable steps, what is a good place to start to begin having that conversation and to get the ball rolling?
For them, I would want their own individual motivation. What is your goal? What are the behaviors you're trying to do? Let's try to make them additive. Let's try to make them smart, specific, measurable, achievable, et cetera, et cetera. And once they're squared away and they know what their work is, I am really going to address the partner, because the partner is likely going to be the main source of reinforcement. And I will try to make a joke about it. Like, children and boyfriends, husbands, men cannot be reinforced enough. They do something right, you tell them, thank you, I like that, oh my gosh, you picked up, that's terrific, high five, high five, high five. Steaks, oh, I'm going to cook you a steak tonight. That husband is going to be more likely to do it again the next day. Sexual favors, not to be crass, but
listen,
flash a boob, that's all it takes. Suddenly husband like,
yeah,
I'm
that'll get me to do anything,
right? But it is a positive reinforcement. So I will tongue in cheek or playfully say, you need to take this positive reinforcement approach. Reward good behavior, don't punish the bad behavior. In fact, he probably knows it, or she probably knows it, because it's their goal. They're working on it. They're trying to improve it. Give them the space and the time. And also actually have a conversation with them. Say, hey, how would you like me to bring it to your attention when you're doing the old behavior, or when you're when it, like, say you promise to do the dishes every night, it's Thursday and you're just off in la la land, just, I'm ADHD, so it's just like, ooh, this is fun, right? How would you want me to tell you that you need to do the dishes? Probably don't want to be like, you haven't done it yet, right? That would, suddenly it's a fight, suddenly it's defensive. Maybe it's a hand gesture, right? I work with a lot of couples that like, and then they go, oh, yeah, I got it, I understand, yeah, I'll do the dishes, or give me 5 minutes, or let me finish up here. But talk about it, let them know. They might tell you to your face, this is what you do and it pisses me off every time, don't do this, right? When I come home and it's the first 5 minutes of me walking in the door, don't tell me of all the tasks that I need to do. Maybe give me 5 minutes to change my clothes, relax, take a deep breath. And then you can go, hey, the dishes need to be done, or whatever. But first, have the collaboration with the partner there. They are going to be the vanguard of the reinforcement strategy. And their punishment is going to be received harsher and more intensely. So you really got to curb that. And again, the more they're on the same page and they have informed consent, it's not going to feel silly, or it's not going to feel as silly. Because if oh, I want to yell at you for not doing the dishes, but Dr. Perin said to reinforce, so I'm gonna I'm going to try really hard. Honey, I really appreciate how you put the glass in the sink instead of left it on the table today. Good job. It's going to sound funny, and their partner's going to look at you funny, and they're going to like, oh, you're trying that new, keep it up, keep trying. Instead of going, that was lame. Don't ever do that again. That sounded awkward. Like, give them grace to try a new behavior. I remember the first time I drove on a freeway, I had sweat stains down to here. Like, now it's old hat. Now it's fine. But it took a lot of repetitions for me to be able to do that. Offer that grace to your roommate, your partner, your girlfriend, your husband, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I mean, that is probably the most generally experienced thing, right? Is that in a living situation when there are more than one people are involved, the cleanliness is always
the odd couple. There's a movie and television show about it. Walter Matthau and John Lemon. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on it. Jack Lemmon. Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. Great movie. Highly recommend it.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Oh man, you are in for a treat, because you are just going to see us as roommates. You're going to be like, hey, he's that one.
That's amazing. That's awesome. How you feeling? We got a couple questions here that
I see that. Yeah, let's do some Q&A, and then let's maybe wrap up in about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I'll probably answer it. Oh, that's a good one. How do I know I've actually rewired the habit for good?
Well, the for good is the tricky part, because there are always going to be two risks: stressors and reminders. When you are stressed, you are more likely to go back to your old overdeveloped behavior. When there is a reminder, if you've quit smoking, right, and you haven't smoked in weeks, but then you're walking outside of your favorite bar and someone's ripping a heater and they're like, you want one? And you smell it, and it's just like, oh my gosh, you're going to potentially relapse. So for good, it's there may always be a temptation or a risk or a repetition compulsion present, but you are going to know that you have successfully navigated a majority of the behavior change when you notice that the effort is different. That transition from the action phase to the maintenance phase, you are recognizing that you are just you aren't putting as you aren't like clenching as you're doing the new behavior, or it is a little bit more automatic. Maybe one day you do it without the forced behavior, without the deliberate, and or it's just less. It just becomes easier. You're gonna feel that hump, and that's when you're gonna know you're more into maintaining the behavior than developing it. I don't know if that's helpful information, but it's the best I can give.
Perfect. That's all we need from you, is your best. Okay, one more. Here we go.
Being a shout out from Jonathan Pritchard. I appreciate you, Jonathan.
Hell yeah. Thanks, buddy. Okay. How do I keep new habits from disappearing when life gets busy? Man, I want to know that, because I definitely fall on that one for sure.
Yeah. So in behaviorism, what we talk about is we are extincting a behavior. We are working towards an extinction, the lowering of the frequency and intensity of a behavior.
Yeah.
That there is a risk. There are two risks. One is an extinction burst, where it comes back really quickly and really intensely. And then when it comes down again, it becomes a lot more, it's easier to maintain. But two, that is the stressors and the reminders. There is always relapse prevention, even when this is just maintenance, because at any point in time, you can backslide, and you will backslide back to either the contemplation or the planning stage. You're back to the drawing board, or it's, oh no, I'm back into this behavior and I need to change it again. If you are consciously aware that the risk of falling off the wagon is there, you can create routines or repertoires to get back on the wagon. I know I'm using like addiction terminology, and sometimes this is just a matter of like waking up sooner. It's not always a how do I overcome an addiction, but these are just some of the best examples to give. Um, if you have maintained a behavior for 3 months and then you relapse, the 3 months is less important than how it is how quickly you get back on the wagon, like how quickly you go back to the new behavior. Like you need to circle around really like as quickly as possible. Sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's a weekend, sometimes it's a couple of weeks, but eventually you got to turn around, and that becomes the measurement. I have a 6-pack. I relapsed. I ate 3 slices of chocolate cake, and now I think I'm going to go back to eating chocolate cake every day. Okay, I did it. It took me 10 days, but I'm back to not eating cake anymore. Great. When you relapse again, try to make it 9 days. Great. When you relapse again, try to make it 8 days. Great. When you relapse again, try to make it 7 days. You say that, and people actually get kind of fussy. They tell you, no, I don't ever want to no, never. It's unacceptable, verboten. Don't do it. I would love to be able to agree with you, and relapse is very often a part of this process. Like these old behaviors are so very well developed. They are so ingrained into us. Sometimes they have been behaviors that we've done in our entire lives. If we are messy, that could also be a temperament issue or personality issue. Maybe that person is just naturally in low trait conscientiousness, and it doesn't matter how many times they do the dishes. They are always going to forget when they put something down and it disappears into the ether. It ceases to exist until her husband comes home and sees a half-drank, empty bottle or a glass of water on the table and goes, "Oh my gosh, you said you'd stop doing this." Some things are outside of our purview.
Interesting. Okay, great. Okay, I think we have time for probably one more.
Sure.
Let's see. Oh, this one's interesting. How long does it take for a new behavior to start feeling natural?
It's hard to say for sure. There is kind of a range. A lot of research looks at kind of this 21-day mark, this 3-week day mark. If you have maintained a behavior for 3 weeks, every single day for those 3 weeks, by that 21-day mark, research does show the intensity goes down. It becomes a little bit easier. You are now more likely to do it again in the future. Now, that being said, if you skip the 22nd day, a lot of that progress goes away.
Interesting. Really, is that really almost
Yes.
like a clear cutoff?
Well, it's very noticeable. After about 3 weeks, things become easier, but the backsliding is still the risk. After about 3 months, the backsliding becomes less of a risk. Now, again, these are guidelines. These are based off of trends. The research looks at this as kind of a consolidation of data from many people. So for some people, it can take longer than 3 months. For some people, it can take fewer than 3 months. But the guideline ballpark is after approximately 3 weeks, it becomes easier to maintain, but the backslide remains. And after about 3 months, the risk of backsliding goes down.
Interesting. Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
All great questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I like this. This was a good one. Yeah, I guess that's all that we have. If you have any questions or if you have any follow-up questions, I'm on X. I'm on YouTube. Shoot us some questions. Maybe we'll answer them there.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you again to the Hopewell Institute for making this possible, and thank everybody that tuned in live on X and YouTube. We'll see you guys next week at the same time, same channel. If you happen to be watching this in the future on the recorded version, make sure to hit a like on any platform, reshare it. Resharing is actually, I don't know if you knew this, but resharing is actually the number one thing that drives you into the algorithm, much more than likes, much more than comments. The resharing is really what puts you out there. It's what gives you the most mobility. So if you guys are listening to this and you think that somebody that will find this interesting or useful or both, send them over, and that's gonna give a good signal to our algorithm so that more people get exposure to it.
And if you're a big fan on X, but you haven't followed me on YouTube yet, please follow me on YouTube. The more people who follow, the more reach we're going to have.
That's right. Right on. Well, thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Pablo.